In this video, I'll walk through setting up my Google IOT service for my project. I'll do this on Windows. I didn't see many videos on YouTube for Windows, so hopefully this will be useful. This will cover creating a Google Cloud account for my project, setting up openssl on Windows and making certificates and private key, and then creating an IoT registry and device that uses that SSL cert and key. And finally testing the Cloud IOT services working.
Looking at signing up to Google Cloud, so before you can use IOT Core, you need to have a Google account. So you can just go through the normal Google create account process, and then under that account you need to sign up for a Google Cloud account as well. Best way to get there is to go into Google, do a search for Google Cloud, will bring up the screen, and then just go into the Google Cloud page. By default it will give you this option to try it for free. I'm going to click on that. I'm actually using a dummy Google account at the moment to do this. One thing you'll notice is you get a credit of $300 and access to the platform for 12 months for free for development. And then after that there may be some charges, but it depends on your usage of the platform as well. But initially when you sign up you won't get any charges without agreeing to charges after this. So even though it asks for a credit card just to make sure you are who you are, say you are, you won't get any charges initially. Okay, so as usual, agree to the terms of service, say which country you're from. This will change where the Google services are based for better responsiveness. Click on continue, and then it'll take you through this form here. Select what kind of business you are. So I'm going to be individual initially. I'm not going to fill in the rest of these because I already have an account set up, but it pulled in the name from the Google account, or the dummy Google account that I'm using at the moment, and then you just fill in things like the address information, and you'll need to set up a debit or credit card to use with this account. Again, you won't be charged to this account until you allow it to be charged to. At this stage it's just used for verification of identification. And then after that, press start my free trial. And after this I'll be going through setting up projects under your Google Cloud account, but I'll be using my real account for doing that. I'm going to Google Cloud, and you'll see here IoT Docs Quick Start. I'm basically following through the process that this Quick Start walks through. Just making some changes or showing you how I do some of the things using Windows. This is really oriented more towards doing this on a Mac or a Linux machine. There's not many differences, and also some minor changes to the Quick Start here, where I'm actually setting this up for ourProbes project, so I have some different project names and registry names and things. So first thing I'm going to do is create the ourProbes project to hold all the resources. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Google console. So I've already got an account, so when I go in here, you see I've already got an account. Already got some of my projects that were developed in Firebase shown as projects here. So I'm going to go under our DARs, or under the list of projects, and I'm going to create a new project. The project name for this is ourProbes, and it's also got an internal ID here that's been assigned, so it looks good. I don't need any organization, so I'm going to create that. So now I've got my project. I'm going to change over to that project once it's created. Okay, so I've got a project, I've got a project ID. The other thing I'll need is the Google Cloud Services CLI installed on my machine. To do that, basically going back to Quick Start here, it tells you down here the link to go to the place where you can install the Cloud SDK. So basically cloudgoogle.com SDK docs. Make sure Windows is selected as the SDK I want to install, and the easiest way to install it is to use this Cloud SDK installer. Click on that, they'll bring the exe down to your machine, and click on that. It'll take you through the install, so I'm going to agree to everything. I'm just going to install it for a single user. That looks good. I shouldn't need bundled Python. I've already got Python 3 installed on this machine, and I'll hit install. While that's going, the other thing you want to be aware of is when installing the examples, it uses Node to run it, so let's make sure we've got a good version of Node. So I've got Node installed, it's 12.9.1, and I also want to make sure that I've got the correct version of the Node package manager installed, so let's just do a version on that. So 6.12, I think we're actually up to 13 now, but I did notice if you weren't at 12, some of the npm installs of the examples later on failed for me. Okay, I'll let the cloud platform continue to be installed. I want to go back here again in the Cloud Console, and I want to add a registry. I want to add IOT Core as a service. So that's under Big Data, IOT Core, and it asks you whether you want to enable it when this page comes up for the first time. Also down here it shows you the pricing. So again, I think while I'm experimenting with this, I can't see myself going over the free limit for using this service. So let me enable this. So it's setting up the resources under my ourProbes project. And the first thing I need to do is create a registry. So a registry is a collection of devices. So let's create a registry. We need a registry ID. For this registry, I'm going to call it microcontroller. I can't think of a reason why I'd want another registry, but because it's a collection of devices, I guess if I have other device types, so maybe if I have Linux or Windows services running as IoT endpoints, I might want to have a different registry for that. So at the moment I'm going to call this registry microcontroller to show it it manages microcontroller based devices. I'm in the US, so US Central 1 is a good region to use. I don't need the HTTP protocol. I'm just going to be using MQTT for this. And I'm going to want to create a topic. So let's create a topic. and I'm just going to add on the topic name I'm going to use. Let's call it probe events. So this will be the data, the holder of the data that's coming in from my probes will be called probe events. Let's create that topic. Is there anything else I need to change here? I'm going to do stack driver login at the info level, and I'm going to hit create. And so I've now got a registry. You see under IOT Core now it shows the registry's details, and also has a place where I can add devices to this registry. So before that, I'm going to stop this video and go through creating the SSL certificate and private key that I'll need to use for creating the device. Okay, so part of what we want to do is install openssl, and it's best to install it on a Linux system. I'm on Windows, so the way I'm going to install it is I'm going to install the Windows Linux subsystem and then Ubuntu, and then run SSL, openssl from there. So first stage under Windows is to install the Windows Linux subsystem. So I'm going to type in turn Windows features on and off, go there, and down towards the end of the list there's the Windows subsystem for Linux. I'm going to say OK. It'll go through, it's going to need a reboot, so once that comes up I'll reboot or restart the system. Okay, once we've turned on the Windows subsystem for Linux feature, we need to install Ubuntu. So I'm going to do that by going to the Windows Store, and in search I'll put in WSL. It'll show me the various Linux distributions that are available. This is the one I want, Ubuntu 18.4, maybe a later version by the time you do this. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to say get, and I'll just let it go through the installation process. Okay, looks like it got installed, so I'm going to launch it. Let's try a different one. I'm going to use openssl to create a private and public key. To do that, I'm going to use the Windows subsystem for Linux and the Ubuntu that I installed there. So let me click on the link there. Let's make this a little bigger. So I'm going to push up the font size a bit. That's better. Let's check I've got openssl and what version it is. So that's good. I've got openssl 1.1. Nice thing of having this under Linux is I can just, if I want to get the absolute latest version of openssl, I can just use the Linux update mechanism. First I make the private key using this command, openssl command, and then from the private key I create the public key. and I list them out just to check they were created. To get to your files you created under Ubuntu, go to Users and your local user code, go into App Data, then go to Local, Packages. There's a directory called Conical Group, then go into Local State, rootfs, go to Home, then your Unix user code, and there your files will be. Now, probably what you want to do is create a shortcut here so you don't have to go down this directory tree every time. So what I did was go up one level, created a shortcut. And I moved that shortcut to my desktop so it's easy to find these files in the future. So now we have the private and the public key. We're all ready to make the device. I go into IoT, my microcontroller registry, and create a device. I'm going to call this device probe 1. Most of the defaults work. I'm going to pick up my public key information. I'll just copy the whole thing in the public key file. And paste that into the field on the device. Otherwise I'm just going to select info as the logging level. It will create the device based on that information. Everything's looking good. Again, I'm just going to go into the registry to make sure that device is shown in the registry. And looks like it's set up correctly. That's it, we're good. From GitHub, I'm going to copy down the Node.js doc samples. Okay, so I'm now in the MQTT example and I want to install all the supporting Node libraries, so I'm going to do npm I to do install of all the libraries for this example. This is where it's important to have the right version of Node, and npm installed. I found if I had earlier versions of npm this wasn't working. Now I'm going to use the Google Cloud CLI that was installed earlier to create a subscription for the topic that I made earlier, the probe events topic. Let me just clean this up a little bit. So I'm calling the gcloud CLI, and I need to put in the project name or project ID of my ourProbes project. So let me go back to my project. So I'll just go home, and there's my project ID for this project. I just need to change it in here. And this should make a subscription for that topic. That's good. Now I'm going to test out communicating with the IoT service that I created earlier. Oh, I may be in trouble with the algorithm, but let's see how this goes. So let's change the project ID again. I'll get the project ID here. Cloud Region Central 1, Registry ID is microcontroller. Device is probe 1. Let's move the private key to the right location. So I'm going to go down here, get the RSA private, and go into my projects, IoT, TT example. Okay, we've got the key there. Let's see how this works. I may be in trouble with the algorithm that I called out there. So it's going to send $25 messages to the IoT interface. Okay, so that looks hopeful. And final command I'm going to do on the command line is do a gcloud to have a look at what's in the that subscription. So again, I've got to update the project name. Probe subscription I created earlier. Okay, so I see payload 8 being displayed there. The other way to look at this, and probably for Windows persons this is more the way you do it, is I'm going to go back into my IOT Core service. Go into this registry. I'm going to have a look at my stack driver logging first. So it shows the connect and the disconnect from my my node script that was acting as the microcontroller. So that's encouraging. The other thing I'm going to look at is, and then go to the subscriptions, And the probe sub, view messages, pull them, and there's all the messages that were sent from the device. So messages 1 to 25. So it looks like my registry is set up correctly, is working correctly, and now its next stage will be to work on my actual microcontroller and get it using MQTT, be able to talk to the IoT endpoint, and then add the functionality in to the probe on that microcontroller to send the data about network connections that's probing back to the subscription.